Another season, another Cutie Mark Crusaders episode. Only this one has the distinction of being the first episode to focus on them after they hit pony puberty.
I still can't believe I missed that! I was the only reviewer picking up on the theme of change in Season 5, and when all of the changes happened, I was somewhere else, so I couldn't gloat about being the only one who saw it coming.
Oh, we'll be discussing Crusaders of the Lost Mark soon enough, Snazzy. But for right now, is there anything that stood out to you about On Your Marks?
Are you kidding? This episode couldn't have come at a better time. The fandom needs to watch this episode and appreciate the subtext of what it means for everyone. The episode addresses the one big question no one wants to ask, but everyone seems to have an answer for. What happens to the fandom when the show inevitably ends?
Yeah, people have been asking that question since Season 3 premiered. Seems like the prevailing theory is that the fandom will just shrivel up and die once the show is canceled, especially the review side of things.
Oh, sure, makes perfect sense. We all know that once a story is finished, no one ever acknowledges it again for the rest of eternity. That's why there have been no new versions of Sherlock Holmes in over a century, and why the Star Wars fandom was completely silent between 1984 and 1998, and Star Trek sure had no impact after getting screwed by the network and canceled 3 seasons in. Oh wait, cultures the world over are still obsessed with all 3 of those things, and even today people continue to analyze them and be inspired by them. The argument isn't valid!
Is it, though? I mean, yes, the Sherlock Holmes, Star Wars, and Star Trek fandoms have endured through the ages, but those were more than just series. Those were phenomena that not only reshaped popular culture, but culture itself.
And My Little Pony hasn't? Look around you! Ponies dominate the internet! Artists, animators, and writers are still drawing inspiration from it, whether they've been there from the beginning or are just starting out now. Society's attitudes towards female-centric media has changed dramatically in the past couple of years, and MLP deserves just as much credit for that as the Hunger Games. The fandom surrounding this show has proven its staying power by now. No matter how many people make a fuss about leaving it, not one departure has ultimately meant anything in the long run for the rest of us. One analyst's tantrum or one artist's growing disinterest doesn't result in the Brony Fandom dissolving into the ether. This has proven to be more than just a fad. It is, as you put it, a phenomenon.
But that still doesn't speak to the point you were trying to make earlier. What does the fandom do once the show is over, and how the heck does this episode relate to that?
I needed to explain all that other stuff to make my point. Look, the episode comes after the conclusion of the show's longest-running story arc, that of the CMCs getting their cutie marks. The journey is over, the goal has been reached, now what? The episode answers that question directly for the characters, and the subtext applies to the audience. First of all, the end of the show doesn't mean the end of its influence. Thanks to the internet, reruns, and home media collections, new people will discover the series in its myriad forms and be inspired by it long after its official conclusion. As for those of us who were there when the show was in its prime, sure, we'll probably move on to other stuff. And some of us might have a harder time than others in that regard. But we won't just grind to a screeching halt once the final episode's credits roll. The creators among us will continue to create and inspire. The connections and friendships made, if they're genuine, will remain forever, and no matter how we might all change over the years, nothing will change the fact that we were all brought together by a cartoon about magical ponies. That's what On Your Marks means to me. Everyone else can argue the quality of the writing and music, and the doomsayers can spout their nihilistic drivel from now till the cows come home. But I think the message of this episode is something the fandom needs to hear. The end is not the end, and no matter what comes next, we will endure.
You got all that from an episode about horses admiring their own backsides?
Oh, don't give me that, Mr. Gorgo is secretly about feminism. Overthinking stuff is what we do on this channel.
Touché, Snazzy. Touché.